So a lot's transpired in a short period of time, and I think it's more what's happened inside these walls. Our guys have been excellent. They've had a tremendous 3-week offseason. We're in a dead week this week because it's the week before exams, and then we'll get a chance to work out with them after their exams are over next week. But I think, in summing it up, last spring, when we came back from spring break, is when things really started to take shape in here. And the younger guys were driving the train even more so on the work ethic in the program. Christian was really starting to make a turn. There was no doubt about it. This was before the freshmen were even here. And we had an excellent spring. It carried right on into what turned out to be a great summer, and we had another very, very good fall, the best fall we had had, and it carried in obviously to the season that we had. There's been a reason, obviously a good reason, that we've had a shorter off-season program this spring, but the 3 weeks we've been together have been outstanding. And I think to a man, as far as the coaching staff, the staff of the people around them, I mean, they could just see the culture is continuing to shift, and it's shifting into an even higher gear. And when it comes to expectations, if this group last year would have been caught up in lack of expectation, there's no way that they would have ever worked the offseason the way that they worked it. And it's the same thing now. Whatever expectations are out there are really irrelevant to what their goals are, to what their own personal expectations are, and what they want to accomplish together. And I think that's what we're really trying to focus on right now. We've had a great spring. My job has been to just nitpick every little thing that we can inside of their games to make them better, to give them things to work on, to make them better individual players, to have all the different situations that they can control inside of ball screening, reading screens, the shooting, the driving game, adding things to their game, tweaking some things, making things better. That's really what our focus has been on with the team. And if there were 3 things that we need to get accomplished this off season, the individual improvement goes without saying. I wouldn't call that one of the 3. You can't get better if your guys aren't getting better individually. But what really has to get better is, number 1, our strength. We've got to become a stronger team. And when we measure ourselves against the best players and the best teams, there were times where we weren't strong enough, whether it was just maturity-wise in body, whether it was age, or whether it was just plain willpower. Whatever it was, we've got to be stronger in more situations. We've got to have more thickness to us. We've got to have just more stability in that strength game. And we made tremendous strides a year ago with Coach Jackson having a full year here. And I think we'll even make that many more this year. Number 2, we've got to be able to win more one-on-one type of battles, whether it's a 50-50 ball, whether it's stopping somebody one-on-one, whether it's the ability to break somebody down, not be better one-on-one players, but win more one-on-one situations. And there's a difference. Because our ability to share the ball this year, our ability to move the ball, our ability to play through and at Cody and have so many people do so many good things and so many people jump in numbers can really take another step if we can get better in those individual matchups, if we can get better in those individual situations. And that's what this time of year is for. How much better are you getting? How much stronger are you getting? And then when you play, and this is the 3rd thing for us to take a big jump, and this is the biggest on the floor aspect for us, is we've got to be better defensively. If we're better defensively, we'll be a better defensive rebounding team. We'll be even able to play at a faster pace because our defense will allow so many more things to happen for us. We'll be able to get out in transition that much more. We'll be able to create off turnovers that much more. And they all go hand in hand, especially the strength and the defense. So we're really preaching a lot about quality, not quantity right now. We're preaching improvement. But most importantly, we're preaching to the choir. I mean, we really are. They are absolutely locked in to what they need to do. And they're hungry. And that's I could see a hunger in this group a year ago, but they weren't quite sure where they were going with it. And I think this group right now, because they've tasted it, because there's going to be so much real competition that they can absorb, not that we talk about, but that they feel and absorb, I think that gives them even more room for growth, more room for enthusiasm and more of a desire to improve. So we've had a very good spring in that respect. We felt the loss of Benny. I felt it probably the second individual that he wasn't there. And so proud of him and happy for him and being a head coach. And, you know, here's his mindset. I texted him today. I said, how are your individuals? He said, well, they're going to take another step today because now we have the hand pads and the football pads in. So, you know, the culture moves on. It travels. But we could feel him missing. But Calvert being out there with us has been really, really good, too, for him. It's been good for us. It's been good for the team. And we'll talk about the coaching situation in a second. But these guys are really, really at a high level of work right now. And I have no reason to believe that it's not going to carry on. But it has to. And that's the caveat. It has to. There's no room for anyone in this program to not get better. There's no room for any of them to rest on anything that they thought they did or think they're going to do. It's all based on continual improvement. And it'll be the same thing when the newcomers get here. It's the same exact thing. And now these guys have to go in to a mode of really, really teaching and demanding and holding these young guys accountable for what they're going to have to do to improve. Because the culture, like I said, is continually moving forward. It's escalating. And I love it. As far as the coaching search, Calvert, we're going to get through the rest of the week. We have a recruiting period this weekend. Calvert and I have been discussing what the next step is for him in the program, or to stay in the the place that he's at right now, which he very well may want to do. And I've got some people in mind if he does decide to stay into that position. And I'll move fairly quickly, I would think, once this recruiting period is up. And really not going to discuss the process of going about that, other than that there is a process. And I want it to move fairly fast, but I haven't wanted anything to get in the way of what we were doing in this off-season program, because it's been such a short period. And like I said, for great reason, but it's been such a short period. And other than that, I'll open it up. You guys can ask whatever you want.
I know it sounds like he's your number one choice then. And
who's that?
Calvert?
Well, but it's not that simple. It's more about what he wants to do right now. But Calvert's been outstanding, and one way or the other, he's got a great role in the program.
I know that preseason polls, especially this far out, are meaningless, but the fact that so many entities have said you guys are maybe the top team in the country, how does that help on the recruiting trail? I'm sure it's not something you sell, but how does that change the way guys are looking at you?
I think that perception of that is really good. I don't think there's any question about that. I think it just helps. I think a lot of people saw us play. A lot of recruits had a chance, and their coaches and families had a chance to watch us play. And you're always going to get a chance. Indiana's always going to have a lot of exposure, but I think it was the magnitude of the exposure this year and the success that we had with it. So I don't think there's any question that helps. And I look at some of those polls. The one I looked at in depth last night was the Dick Vitale one. And did I write down the numbers? Maybe I didn't. The only one I don't get in any of those polls is how far down they have Wisconsin. I wouldn't be good at the polls, I guess, because I'd have them in the top 3 to 5. And that's where I think they're at. But Vitale's obviously got Kentucky on there. He had us. He has Michigan, Michigan State. We could potentially see NC State or North Carolina potentially in the ACC Big Ten Challenge. Then you've got Wisconsin down the line. You've got Butler in that group. We could see UCLA. We could see Georgetown. We could see Georgia. You know, the people that we could end up playing. It doesn't even include Ohio State, and who's going to be a highly ranked team. I mean, when you really start to think about it, we're in the mix with I'm glad we're in the mix, but we're in the mix with a lot of really good teams. And again, it's the off-season, and it's the expectations that they have in each other, for one another, and because of each other, that I think really drive your team. And it's one thing that you expect something out of yourself, or you expect something out of a teammate. Because you're together and those expectations rise, that's another level. I think we're heading there. So again, it's going to be what the work that they're willing to put in. But as far as when it goes with recruiting, there's no question that it doesn't hurt.
Tom, what attributes, if you end up getting another assistant, Calvert stays where he is, what attributes do you like to see in assistant coach?
Fit. fit. We've got great chemistry. I had as good a staff, and I had some great coaches. I mean, Benny was the 9th guy to go off and become a head coach in my time as a head coach. And we've had some great staffs and great coaches, and last year, from top to bottom, was as good as I've ever been around. When you start to include everybody that's a part of this. And so fit is really big. Compatibility goes obviously into fit. There's certain things that we would want. Recruiting certainly plays a part in this. Player development plays a huge part in this. I think because the staff is so strong, any coach that comes in has got to be able to hold his own, because this is a program where you would never walk in and just see 1 or 2 assistant coaches just standing on the side, not being involved in practice. If you coach here, you're involved, and it's the way that's the way I was raised, and that's exactly the way I would want it. I would never ever be able to work with a wallflower. I wouldn't be able to do that, and there's got to be too much energy and enthusiasm and intensity and teaching ability going on. So those are big things, and I think past experiences would play into it, but this is not a situation anymore. I'm way past going the stranger route, going the recommendation route, going we've heard good things about them and they've got a good track record, but we really don't know them. I've not done well with that. And so really we're in a situation where there'll be, familiarity will be a factor inside it as well.
Coach, we keep asking Rick Pitino when will be the time Louisville schedules Indiana again. He kind of keeps deferring to you. Where are we right now with that?
We're nowhere. It's not that it couldn't happen down the road, but I don't foresee it this year. But I'll repeat it again. I mean, we have the Kentucky game, which is still being talked about and worked on. It's not set in stone because, as many of you know, Kentucky doesn't want to play it on campus anymore. That's certainly not our first choice. Keeping it on campus is without a doubt our first choice, always has been since I've been here. But I mean, again, when it was all said and done, to my knowledge, Kentucky was the one that moved it back to campuses before we came. So to my knowledge, that's what I've been told. So we've got that to play out. We've got UCLA, Georgia, and Georgetown in a tournament. Butler's a top 20 to 25 team again, and we play them in the Crossroads Classic. More than likely we'll have North Carolina State in the ACC Big Ten Challenge. Who am I missing? And then we got the league. And I don't think there's any question that the league will be on par to be the best in the country again. So this is not the first time of having a good team. And so sometimes when you walk down that road, you start thinking that, well, we need to do this for scheduling and we need to do that for television. That's not how it works. This league, the RPI, is always going to take care of itself in this league. We want to do things that make sense. Now, I said all that to say this. It may very well make sense to do that, but it's not this year.
When do you expect the freshmen to get on campus, and what's going to be the key to making sure they have a smooth transition and everybody get on the same page quickly?
Leadership from the upperclassmen, and I don't just mean tell them where to be. And there's going to be real accountability for that. We've got some guys getting ready to go into a big brother mode that there'll be a big accountability there. Our upperclassmen will be as responsible for the underclassmen as the other way around. And when that time comes. So I'm not sure of the exact date. It's when the second session starts. Some will be after the Indiana All-Star team is finished. So it's sometime in June. But the great news is we get to work with the players this summer. I mean, that'll be, there couldn't have been a better ruling in my mind and probably in a lot of other guys' minds. And the fact that we've been given April weekends to recruit, which is so valuable. They've taken some away from July, but that's fine, because you still get enough time in July to go out and recruit and see players, but most importantly, you get to work with your most important players, which are the ones you have now. So that'll be good, and that'll help us to get a running start with them this summer. But really, it's going to be how the upperclassmen bring them in, and because it's going to be incredibly competitive. I mean, incredibly, and that's what I feel, but I think the players will all feel that as well.
How much of a challenge is it going to be for the staff to maybe juggle? You have a team that just went to the Sweet 16, and maybe some of those starters are going to have to come off the bench.
That'll be a problem for the staff. Wasn't a problem last year. It's not a problem at all. And again, when people make those assumptions and projections, that's all they are. They're just assuming. I mean, it'd be crazy for me to sit there and look at what a lineup could look like. The best thing for us, and the thing that we have to have, which we have still not had, it was much better this year than it had ever been, without a doubt, but we've still never had great depth, which allowed us to be truly deep. And I'm not saying we will now. On paper, we potentially could, but that's on paper. That's on past experiences, and that's on potential of newcomers. You don't win games on past performance. You don't win games on potential. You win them on actual results and production. So that's what has to start to get established. But I think it's always good when those guys get up here and they can be around the guys in the spring. I know they've done that a little bit. And I've had a chance to see some of them during this last recruiting period, go in and make some points. And watch a lot of film, a ton of film of our incoming players. And that's helpful too, because then you can, now it really feels like we're getting ready to coach them. You know, before you were trying to help them be better in their own program. Now you're really getting ready to coach them. And so there's a different transition period that you go through as a staff. That's all I'm concerned about.
You're obviously still 1 over when it comes to scholarships, 14 guys for 13. I guess what's your plan on handling that, and what's kind of your timetable by when you have to get something accomplished?
There's not a big plan, and there's really not a timetable. Those things work themselves out. They always have. So, again, it's the way that it is. It's not a. It's certainly something that's on the horizon, but there's no timetable to it.
When do you have to have that taken care of? Is it by the fall semester?
I think
You
so.
have to be down to?
Yeah, I think so.
Tom, when you're dealing with recruiting, like some of these events where you go weekends, and in general terms, in terms of evaluating the player, do you get more from watching, say, a team workout, or when they're actually playing games against, AAU competition?
Well, I love, if I had my druthers, it'd be to see as many practices as you could, high-level practices. But it doesn't work that way, because you can't do it this time of year, but usually when teams are practicing, we're practicing. So when we can hit an occasional practice, I always like to do that. But I think it's the more real competition you can see them against, the more different competition. During the season, always want to see them at home, want to see them on the road, want to see them in at least one rivalry game, and also want to see them a lot of times in a game maybe where they're supposed to do well, maybe where they're on paper in the past they've been better than that team. See how they handle that game. They keep playing us hard through it. When you've got a short window like this in April, and you can see somebody play a couple times a night or a couple times a day, that's invaluable. And it's a great evaluation time. I mean, it's just you can gather so much. I mean, so much, and then you can start to compare that to their high school films and the improvement that they're showing, and then you've got that much more of a gauge if you see them at your own camp or when you see them in July.
Coach, can you talk a little bit about Maurice's recovery and how much he's able to do right now?
He's not going live. Maurice has got to become as hard a worker as there is on the team, and that's not always been who he's been, and that's who he's got to be. He's got to get into that Will Sheehy, Victor Oladipo, Jordan Halls, I'm going to be in the gym morning, noon, and night type of mindset, because he can't play yet, and we haven't put him. We put him in a few small contact situations, but nothing in the sense of live and going up and down the court, and he's not really playing in the pickup games and things like that. So we have high expectations for him in-house. There's no question about it, and to control what he can control. Certainly he's got to get his lower body stronger, continue to as his lower body heals up completely. We're still fighting some of those things strength-wise because of all the different injuries that he's had to his lower body. Needs to continue to build his upper body strength, but he needs to get back to being one of the best shooters really in the country. Because when he got hurt the first time, that's basically where he was heading. And it wasn't like that his sophomore year because he just wasn't back enough yet. But he's got to get into that mode because it's going to be very competitive for him. And this is the time of year when you can get a jump on that if you have some things that you can really fall back on. And his shot and his ability to shoot the ball and play in pick and roll and things like that are going to have to be things that he has to really do. But I'm very optimistic based on our 3 weeks of offseason, put it that way. He's been doing the same things that the rest of them have been doing inside of how we've been working on the pick and roll. I've been working off screens, working through contact. It just hasn't been in live situations of going against his teammates.
Is everyone else pretty healthy and able to go through everything right now?
Well, Christian's resting his foot right now. He had some heel issues during the year that he really did a great job of playing through. So We want him to rest right now and recuperate there, but he's had an excellent offseason. He went all the way through the 3 weeks that we had. And, yeah, other than that, I think we're fine. And everybody can be in the weight room.
Where did things end up coming down with Matt Roth? Is he going to be around for another?
He's keeping his options open, which is good. I think that's, he's focused right now on finishing up because he's had such a big road this academic year to get where he wanted to be in his master's. He's got options. He's got options of keeping his eligibility, and at the same time, I think there's a lot of, in his mind, he's planning for the future and planning to make that next jump. But the advice I gave him was just to keep your options open as you go through this and as we go through this.
Is there a spot for him, I guess? I mean, again, you're obviously...
We'll have to wait and see. I mean, any discussions like that would be in-house, and again, I just want him to keep his options open of what's best for him moving forward, and there's no question that he's looking into his future, but he'll be the decider of that for the most part.